Well, hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Amazing Seller Podcast. This is episode number 719, and today I'm excited because, well, we're going to be talking about how to create and prepare a business, maybe your business, to eventually sell to an investor. And I have a special guest that I've had on before, but I always love chatting with him, and his name is Joe Valley from Quiet Light Brokerage, and he's become a really good friend of mine. He actually spent some time with myself and my inner circle at the lake house, and after we got done with that session, I said, you know what, I got to get you back on the podcast because there's so much that you shared here with everyone that was at the lake house that I want you to share it also on the podcast because I think it's so important. The other thing is Joe Valley is also going to be at Brand Accelerator Live. So again, depending on when you're listening to this, you've been hearing me talk a lot about this lately. If you're listening to this in 2019 and before September 19th, but I am super excited because Joe will be there. The Quiet Light team will be there and answering any questions anyone has. And sometimes it's so funny. You think that your business isn't sellable, right? It's something that's too small right now. And that is like one of the big misconceptions. And actually one of our inner circle members who's doing really well, but didn't think that they were big enough, didn't think that they would even start considering that. And the cool thing is if you understand some of these things up front, your business is probably worth more than you think. So that's what we're going to have Joe dig into. And we talk a lot about these adbacks and just different things that are looked at when you go to sell, but you also do need to prepare this stuff beforehand. And there's some things that people miss every single time. And he's going to talk about those. This conversation is totally full of golden nuggets and you're going to want to listen to the entire thing. Now, if you are attending Brand Accelerator Live, well, I encourage you to go up to either Joe or someone on his team and just see where you're at. Here's the deal. All right. We have people that are going to be attending, all right, that are sponsors, and I'm using the air quotes. We consider them partners. And here's the cool thing. The reason why I say that is because there was a ton of people that wanted to pay money to be a sponsor, and we did not accept all of those. We only accepted the ones that we either had a relationship with, either we've done business with, or someone that we know has done business with. We built that relationship. So the cool thing also is these people that are going to be there, that are going to be sponsors / partners of ours, they are actually willing to help you without you paying them, which is really cool. So I'm really excited to have these people there, including Joe from Quiet Light Brokerage. So again, super excited about Brand Accelerator Live. If you are not attending, well, you can still head over to baltickets.com and you'll get details as far as virtual tickets and when they're available if you're interested. So baltickets.com, depending on when you're listening. I doubt that there will be tickets available at the time of this airing, but if there are, you can still go to that link and you can see if you can still grab a ticket. All right, so with that all being said, the show notes to this episode will be found at theamazingseller.com/719. And you can get all the details there, which you're probably going to want to. And the other thing is I'll kind of, again, let you know about Brand Accelerator Live. But if you are attending, Joe is going to be there with Mike Jackness, who just recently sold his business for a 7-figure number. And I'm going to be on stage really going through the sale, what they could have done differently, and for you guys to be able to be there and hear this conversation, but then also ask questions about the sale and about what they could have done differently and what they would have done differently if they had known. All of that stuff is going to be there. So super excited to be able to hang out with those guys. So again, if you are attending, you've got a really special opportunity to be able to be there in person with all of these great people. So, all right, with that all being said, let's get rocking and rolling. I'm going to go ahead and stop talking so you can listen to this conversation, this session really with Joe Valley and everything you're going to need to know on when you are preparing a business for sale, or even if you're just starting a business from scratch. These are some key things that you need to make sure that you set up from day one. All right, so sit back, relax, and enjoy. Well, hey, Joe, welcome back to the podcast. What's up, man? Long time no see. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good. Good to be back. Good to be back.
Yeah, the last time we were together, we were actually at the lake house, which we didn't even know we lived across the lake from each other, or I didn't actually yet. I just purchased a property and then found out you were actually moving away.
Yeah. It seems like I heard you were coming to the lake and I had to get out of there. I just couldn't keep up, but
yeah,
not the case at all.
Right. It was funny though. I mean, when you and I were talking about it, and then you're like, "Wait a minute, I gotta see exactly where you are," and then you actually took a picture and then drew an arrow of my house directly across the lake. It was insane.
Literally, it's kind of creepy. Everybody, Scott and I are chatting on the phone. He very coy about the lake and where he's moving to, and gives me a description. I'm like, "You've got to be kidding me!" I walk out to my back door.
Yeah.
Zoom in across the lake, take picture. That's the house that he bought.
It was incredible. So anyway, yeah, but it was a blast to actually get to hang out with you, and you were one of our late night, evening dinner time, where you were hanging out with us and the inner circle people that I had at the house. And I did want to kind of talk today more about not even just like, okay, how to buy and sell a business, like that's great, but there's a lot of things that people don't realize. And the big thing that I took away that I want you to kind of dig into, a couple of different areas, but one of them was like, I don't think that my business is big enough yet. So I shouldn't be even considering like talking to someone. And when people talk to you and Quiet Light, it's not necessarily a sales call. It's really like, let's just see where you're at. Let me help you. And if you decide to sell, then we'll talk, and if not, no big deal. And I love the way that you guys do business that way, but you really, you were so generous with your time. You sat down and you can tell that you love this stuff. And there was one person in particular, Rachel, who was like, I don't think that I'm big enough yet. And then you sent me over a whole bunch of stuff afterwards and like, show her this, because this business didn't think they were big enough either. And look at what they were able to sell for. So let's kind of dig in, like, for people that think that they're not big enough yet. I mean, what is a sizable business? Like, what should I be even thinking about, if I ever want to sell?
Yeah, the whole thing really, Scott, it's relational. It's not transactional. It's getting to know somebody like Rachel who thinks, God, these people are doing $10 million a year in revenue and I'm only doing, whatever the number is. Right. And they feel inferior because they're not quite there yet. Look, you should never really feel that way because, all of those people started out, 24, 36 months ago as well. Mm-hmm. And we're in that exact same position. And I don't think it's ever too early to start to have a conversation. As you said, we're not selling anything. We're helping first, building a relationship, and there's just conversations and sharing information and getting people prepared well in advance to think about potential exit. Most of the people that are in the e-commerce world specifically, or actually just any internet-based business, they're going to make the most money from that business when they exit it someday, unless they keep it for 20 years. And let's face this, most of us, like you and me, working from our home offices right now, are never going to get to a point where we've got 50, 100 people working for us, because that's not our lifestyle. That's not what we want to do. Right. So somebody that's going to, run a small business is probably going to make the most money when they exit someday. So they should start thinking about that from the onset.
Yeah. And again, I think when people are starting, they're just thinking about getting started, or they're like, well, I'm doing $500,000 a year. I hear everybody talking about they're doing like, 7 million, 10 million, and I'm not like them, so I shouldn't even be considering this. But it was pretty cool how you were able to dig into somewhat of a, smaller business, right? And then you were able to kind of show that there's actually more of a business there than you make it out to be, if you look at all of the different details that go into when you sell a business. And like you just said, and I do want to talk about that too, you'll probably make the most money when you sell the business. Because let's face it, with a physical product business, it's pretty cash intensive, right? Like, it takes a lot of money to keep inventory. I know Mike Jackness, who we're going to be actually highlighting him at Brand Accelerator Live, and you're going to be there, and we're going to be actually digging into that sale and what we learned from that. But he was telling me, like, sitting on $1 million in inventory, it's a lot of money, right?
That keeps you up at night, doesn't it?
Yeah, right?
Yeah. These businesses don't have to be big to sell and take some cash off the table. And selling isn't always the ultimate goal. It's understanding the value that you have. I swear, if I had 100 people in the room and I said, what's the value of your retirement account? They could tell you. What's the value of your house or condo or car? Right. They could tell you. How much money do you have in the bank? They could tell you, but no idea what the business is worth. And it's probably the most valuable asset. I had somebody from a seller, a client from Vermont reached out just a couple of years ago. He had quit his corporate job to launch an Amazon-based business, one of your audience members.
Okay.
Listening to you, listening to others, and launched a business. His wife was a school teacher. He stayed home to raise their son.
Okay.
And didn't take any money out of the business for 2 years.
Wow.
2 years.
Crazy.
Ended up launching it, had a little bit of seed money up first. I think it was less than $10,000. Ended up having to put everything back into inventory because it was growing so fast.
Sure.
The only thing that he took out of the business after 2 years was the camera that he bought to take photos. He loved photography.
Right.
He paid $600 for it. That didn't transfer in the asset sale, but he sold the business for about $1.5 million after 24 months.
Wow.
He just didn't make any money along the way.
Right.
In the first year, he wasn't doing, $500,000 in revenue. He wasn't quite there yet. It just took off a lot. And so he and I had conversations early on, probably about 14, 15 months in, and said, look, this is where we want to wait. You want to get to that 24-month mark in that particular case, and this is the potential value. And he set some personal goals. If he had gotten to that 24-month mark and those financial goals there were where the value of the exit was, but he loved what he was doing, the plan was to keep doing it, have some more fun, make some more money, grow the business more, and have it grow even further. Yeah.
So more or less what you're saying is, a lot of us, we plan for retirement, right? We put in some money. We hope we get 5-6% return. Like that'd be awesome. I just actually seen an ad came up and was like, depending on how old you are, you should have $2 million in the bank when you're 67. And I'm like, well, maybe if you kind of want to live okay, it'd be all right? But we all know that it's going to probably cost more depending on what you're going to do. And so they were like giving if you're 20 years old, you need to put $600 a month away for the next whatever years, right? To get to 67 and have $2 million in the bank at a 6% return. And they were like 30 years old, you need $1,250. And if you're 40 years old, you need $2,500. And if you're 50 years old, you're screwed, right? You basically got to have $5,000 a month. And so again, that's like a long-term play. But what you're saying is almost if you have a goal in mind, I want to build something and sell it for $2 million, right? Or $1 million, right? In the next 24 months. It's possible if you, number one, understand how to build these types of businesses and also understand what it takes to sell one and what a buyer is looking for. Is this correct?
Yeah. And I think the second part is where we come in and having those conversations. Yeah. Because there's so many little nuances involved in the valuation of a business. There's, what buyers are looking for, certain key metrics. And it's not I hear people say, well, it's a 3-time multiple is about what I'm going to get of my profit. Right. And the answer is always, well, not exactly. It varies greatly depending upon the business, and it's not your profit. That's the wrong term. It's something else. It's called seller's discretionary earnings. And there's so many nuances that go into it with things that can be added back and things of that nature that don't carry forward to a new owner that bring tremendous value. Yeah.
So good. We are going to dig into that because I think those adbacks are what I think blew my, my inner circle people kind of away in a little bit. They're like, well, wait a minute. I thought it was just net, right? I netted this. This is what I can make. I do the 3X, 3.5X, whatever, right? Whatever that is. And that's an easy way to kind of do some rough math. But in actuality, it's actually better than that if you, number one, understand what those adbacks are and how they apply. So there's a couple of different things I want to ask you. First off, and you've probably been asked this, but I'm going to ask you here now. If you were starting this with the intent to sell a business in 2 years, what does Joe Valley do to set up that business from day one?
The basics are, LLC or subchapter S. Don't do a C corp. If you have other brands, try to keep whatever brand it is that you think you may sell someday in its own seller account, so that you can sell it off the day you wake up. Say, okay, I'm ready to move on. I'm going to sell this particular brand. It's in its own LLC, has its own tax returns, and is very, very transferable. And you want to not be the face and name of the business. Right now, it'd be very hard for you to sell your overall business because you're Scott Volker and you're the name of the business. Somebody that's selling, tennis equipment online they don't want to put their name on it, their face on it, or whatever the case might be. So separate yourself from the business. You want to focus on probably 4 pillars, if you will, in the long term, and understand what they are, which is risk, transferability, growth, and documentation. The biggest mistake, believe it or not, that I see most entrepreneurs do is they're not using good accounting software like QuickBooks or Xero. They don't have a grip on their numbers. They focus on top line growth. They go with the Amazon reports and they focus on that only, and then they do some back of the napkin, what's left over for me. They don't have a good handle on it. That's the level of detail that buyers are looking for. And that level of detail is what is going to add another $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 to the value of your business with some adjustments and adbacks that are legit as adbacks, as we call them.
Okay, that's perfect as far as like giving people like those are like the pillars, right? Like follow those pillars. That's what you would do. That's what you would advise anyone to do from day one. Set it up correctly and with those different pillars. And I think a big one, like you said, is bookkeeping. And I think a lot of people think that they're not big enough for bookkeeping when there's all different package levels out there for depending on what size the business is. But I would agree 100%. You need to start almost from day one with some type of accounting that you are not just scratching it down on some paper or putting it into your own personal spreadsheet. I think that's huge.
And it's not expensive.
No.
You could do it yourself through online with Xero or QuickBooks Online, or you could hire a company like MuseMinder to CapForge or Catching Clouds or somebody like that, where they're charging based upon the size of your business, and it's so much better. And the other thing that not enough people do, Scott, is a monthly review of those profit and loss statements to see what the margins look like. What's my gross profit look like? What's my ad cost as a percentage of total revenue look like? My net income, and calculating their own seller's discretionary earnings. So those are the metrics that makes the most important. And then focusing in on, what's your shipping cost look like? Is there a way that you can save $1 on 1,000 shipments a month? And what's that going to do? $12,000 times, 3, 4 times. That's what adds real value to the business. It's not necessarily selling, 10 more widgets a day.
Right. No, I love that. It's kind of getting smarter with the profit, with your margins. And I think a lot of people, they just figure out, okay, I got to add more product. That's going to add more revenue. We're good. But if actually you work smarter with what you have, you could probably even add a little bit more there and squeeze a little bit more out of that. So, okay, let's talk about adbacks. Because this is something it's kind of foreign to a lot of people. It was to me as well. I'll be totally honest, because you don't think of it in a way that you can actually get paid back for your, some of your your inventory for sure, but some of your other earnings or, things that you're adding back into the business. So what is that? What does it mean? How is it even calculated? And just kind of dig in.
All right. Let me just define seller's discretionary earnings first, because it's part of the add back process. So you run a profit and loss statement, you're going to get net income at the bottom.
Yep.
That's the beginning number. The add backs go below that. So I'm going to look at your profit and loss statement and other things and create an add back schedule below the net income. And it's the net income plus the add backs that equals seller's discretionary earnings, or SDE, and that is the number we apply the multiple to. So it's that 3 times SDE or 4 or whatever the number might be. So there's 3 level of add backs really. There's the ones that are really obvious. An owner salary, single owner salary, your health benefits, your car, your meals and your entertainment that you run through the business, but you're an entrepreneur, you work from a home office, you charge rent, those types of things. Obvious, really, really clear black and white level 1 add backs. Level 2 are those one-time expenses that are your trademark, your copyright, your patent, maybe a one-time video production or something like that you did that is not recurring every year. It's not going to carry forward to the new owner. Even a website redesign could be that level 2, but if you're going to do it every 3 years, you're just going to do a partial add back. Really important stuff. The level 3 add backs are the ones that make an enormous difference in the value of a business. Those are the things where you have to have a deeper, longer conversation and an analysis of the profit and loss statement and some of the history of the business. For instance, a couple of that stand out, had some valuation calls in the last couple of weeks where both of these came up, where someone had redesigned their packaging. So it got tighter and smaller and lighter. and their pick, pack, ship fee from Amazon went down by, let's call it $1.
Okay.
But it just started, we're talking now in August. It just started in February, say. So they're selling 1,000 units a month, for instance.
Okay.
And they had 6 months in the P&L that before February where this lower cost didn't come into play. So that's 6,000 units sold at $1 a piece or shipped at $1 a piece. That's an add back.
Oh, wow.
$6,000 times, call it 3 for simple math, everyone. That's $18,000 added on to the value of that business.
Oh, wow.
Okay. That's, a year's in college tuition, depending upon where you go to school, or a half a car, or a quarter of a car, or 5 cars, depending upon what you buy. Yeah. But it's actually, it's dollars, right? I'm in a situation where someone had renegotiated cost of goods sold on a major selling SKU. Something like that can add hundreds of thousands of dollars, depending upon how many units they're selling. I had something where it added a fair amount of that, made a difference of 100,000 or so. The other thing with the, this is flipping onto a documentation and accrual. I won't go there, but legal fees, an add back, level 3 add back, if there was a lawsuit that's never happened before and it was settled and it's not an issue going forward. Little things like that literally can add up to $100,000, $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 added on to the value of the business, depending upon the size of it. Those level 3 add backs are, they don't come out in that first conversation. You can't pick up the phone and talk to a broker once. You should not pick up the phone and talk to a broker or advisor once and decide that's who you're going to work with to sell your business. There's so much more that goes into it. And it's a process and a relationship that you should develop. And
I was going to say, so that's something that where having someone like you or Quiet Light help with that, you're able to identify these. Now, the other thing, it's kind of like real estate, right? You guys are like brokers in real estate. So what if you have someone that's a buyer, but someone's a seller? How does that work? Because again, like whose interest are you, it's kind of like if you're buying a house, you want to maybe have a buyer's agent and then the seller's agent. How does that work?
Let me definitely touch on that. I want to talk about one more thing in the level 3 add back, because you mentioned inner circle, right? So everyone that attended the inner circle, a mastermind event with you, they paid a certain amount to get there. Yeah. That expense does not carry forward. So that's the additional level 3 type of add back. That's critically important. All right. So buyers, sellers, where's our relationship? Technically, folks like me represent the seller of the business. Okay. Legally, technically, it's an engagement letter that I have with the owner of the business when they're ready to move forward and list their business for sale. We don't sign those, until we're ready to move forward and sell it. We have relationships with people for 18, 24 months beforehand. That's just not even a handshake. It's just working together. Right. But I can't do my job really, really well unless the buyers trust me. Yeah. Right. So we build relationships with the buyers out there. We educate them through our podcasts, through our content, through going to events and talking to them and having conversations with them and picking their brains. We're both in, the Carolinas, right? So I went down to, how do I say it without saying it? A NASCAR, a famous NASCAR drivers company yesterday. Okay. Because they're looking at potentially buying. Right. And they're just learning the process. They actually heard me and Mike on the podcast talking about his exit. So they reached out to me knowing I was local. I don't represent them. All I can do is help them and share information with them. They may end up buying through Quiet Light. They may find someone else that has another business that they like that business and, good for them. They bought it. So I share information and I help the buyers with the process. We want them to make a safe investment. They're putting either an awful lot of their money on the line or their life savings on the line. And it's going to make a big difference for them if they fail. So we want them to succeed. So we help and educate them as much as possible. And we do that through, again, content and podcasts, but also making sure the money is safe by working with the sellers, these people like Rachel, who are just starting out, doing incredibly well. And in 24 months, she's going to have, $1 million or multi-million-dollar business on her hands that she could sell. Put some money aside and start again. We want her to have a great business for other folks to be able to buy and take it to the next level.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. And I know she was excited. Did you guys have your call yet? You and Rachel?
We did.
Yeah.
We
awesome.
sure did. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. She's great. And I think she's going to do well. She's got a lot of great things in her corner, and she's just a great person. So she's a go-getter. But cool. So, all right, let's switch gears here a little bit. I want to ask you a question that I know a lot of people will be wondering. And this actually came up. I had a call the other day. I had it was a random coaching call, which I don't do coaching calls, but I felt like this guy needed a little bit of help. So I said, every now and then I say, you know what, I'm just going to reach out and just say, hey, let's jump on a call and let's talk. Kind of like you're saying, like building the relationships. Can't do it for everyone, but let's just go ahead and do it. So he recently bought a business. Okay. Probably around a year ago. Now he didn't buy it through you guys. It doesn't matter who he bought it through at this point, right? But he bought a business. And I don't know exactly what he paid for it, but it sounds like he paid at least six figures for this business, maybe more. Okay. But he was at the place where he was like, okay, I'm going to put the money in. It's cash positive. It's got good cash flow, and all of the sales are being generated on Amazon. Okay. So it's an Amazon only business, but his thing was, I can probably go out there, build some external channels, shore it up a little bit, maybe even go out and internationally spread it amongst international marketplaces on Amazon, whatever. But I'm going to get to that. Right. So he buys the business. 3 months, maybe 4 months later, a whole bunch of competition, copycats come in. They start hammering on his products. He goes from page one to bottom of page one. His sales, he lost probably 60% of his sales on one of his top SKUs. Now he's in a panic. What do you say to someone that is looking to buy, that is saying like, okay, yeah, this is what's the insurance that I know that this business is pretty strong, that I don't really have to worry about that? Or is there not that? There's risk involved.
Well, there's always going to be risk. You can minimize that risk. And that's one of the first pillars that we focus on by not buying a business that is too young or too small, right? If it's more well-aged, we prefer at least 24 months, but something that's going to be 36 or 48 and doing well, it's gone through those ups and downs. It had that competition come in and take their rankings down, and they figured out and learned and set up systems and processes and gained reviews to fend off the competition and build a moat around the business and those SKUs or ASINs. So age is really important. Size is really important. You know, the folks I met with yesterday, they were thinking about buying a business for, $100,000, $200,000 because they said, quote unquote, it's about my, that's what I'm willing to lose. Right? I'm like, okay, well, if you don't want to lose your money, you should try to buy something that might be a little larger in size because it's more established and is a little bit more risk averse because it's either growing, there's diversified SKUs with multiple, we like to say channels of revenue. Everybody says channels of revenue, but you've got different SKUs and ASINs that are bringing in the revenue. If it's still 100% Amazon, does it have a good moat around it with reviews? Is it, heavily concentrated that 75% is coming from one SKU? That's going to be a problem. We would still list the business for sale, but it would be a lower multiple because of the risk involved. Is he selling in different countries, or she selling in different countries? Is there an opportunity to go international, things of that nature? And then of course, go off of Amazon. But look, you got to do what you do well and focus on that and get it going and push that snowball uphill and wait until it starts going down before you start focusing on other things. Because you have so much risk involved. There's so much to lose if competition comes in and pushes your rankings down. There are folks that I've talked to that, probably listing something in Q1 of 2020 that's, when I first started talking to this person a couple of years ago, the business might have been worth $300,000 or $400,000. Now it's going to be worth $3 million, and he's not looking off Amazon at all because he doesn't want to take his eye off the ball because he doesn't want to be that person that his rankings have gone down on those ASINs. So it's good to diversify, really, really good to diversify, because you've got multiple channels of revenue from different sources like Amazon and your own Shopify store. That's great, but don't do it at the risk of getting hurt in one of those channels. Don't take your eye off the ball so much. None of these are vending machines where all you have to do is put the inventory in there and people are going to show up. You have to work it, right?
Right. Yeah. And how many times do you see someone in the business that stays on as a consultant or that keeps part of the ownership? And because if someone's buying it, like you're dealing with people that maybe not are in e-commerce, there's this new client of yours and they're like, I don't really know the ins and outs. Can I keep them on for a year or more?
Yeah.
Does that happen?
The training is part of the sale, right? When you buy a business, you're going to get a certain amount of hours over a certain period of time as part of that purchase price.
Okay.
And the most important thing I think a buyer can do if they're a cash buyer is, let's just say you're buying a business for $1 million. Okay. Put any number on it, any zeros you want, but let's say it's $1 million. If I'm buying that business from you, Scott, you know things that I don't know. And there are going to be times throughout the year that things are going to happen that I might need to reach out to you. The most important thing I can do is build a good relationship with you, right? I have to like you and trust you. I'm going to give you an awful lot of money. That's number one. If you don't like the person that owns the business and you can't get along with them, but you love the business, you have to think twice about whether you have the skill set to solve those problems that are going to come up without the owner of the business, because they're going to go away. But it's called transition and training. So if you're paying cash, you want to do a holdback. So I'm going to pay you $1 million, but I'm going to put 100,000 of that in escrow for the training and transition period. Typically, it's up to 40 hours over the first 90 days.
Okay.
That can change depending upon the complexity of the business. I've seen people stretch it out over 6 months. Not often does it go to 12 months, because when you're out of the business for 12 months, by that time that 10th, 11th, 12th month comes around, you really can't contribute a whole lot to the running of the business because the new owner's been deep in it for 50 weeks.
Yeah.
But after that training and transition period is over, then that escrow money is released. There's no conditions to it. It just sits there, and you need to show up and help them for a certain amount of hours as the seller of the business so that they're successful.
Okay, cool. No, that answers that. This has been totally helpful, and I always learn something new whenever I come on with you, and I know the audience does as well, and that's why I'm excited for you to be at Brand Accelerator Live and being able to answer questions for anyone that is there. I know you guys are going to be there. There's going to be a bunch of you guys there, which is really great, because now anybody that's there can actually walk up to you guys and kind of pick your brain and talk a little bit about their personal business. So I'm really excited to have you guys there, but I'm also just excited to have you just shed more light on this topic, because I think so many people, they don't realize that they are building something that could turn into something really, really big. Like I know people, they invest 30 years of time and money into potentially having something if the stock market stays the same. I look at this as a shorter term retirement plan, but you just have to put the work in. Last thing, and we talked a little bit about this when you were at the house. Content sites. I know some people right now, they have content sites that are bringing in pretty good money and some affiliate offers and some ad rev and all of that stuff. And if someone is in that place, or if they're like, you know what, I don't want to do the whole physical product thing yet. I want to wait and build up the traffic and the channels and diversify and do all that stuff. Is there room for that? Are people still building content sites? Are they still selling content sites? Do you guys list and sell content sites? Let's just talk about that real quick.
I love content sites, I have to tell you. I come from the physical product e-commerce world, but the largest transaction I've ever sold, I sold one last year for just under 9 million.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. All content, affiliate, links and sales and advertisements. And it was great. Love it. Brad Wayland here at Quiet Light was a content guru. He rolled up 30 content sites and sold them to a private equity firm before joining the team. So we love content sites. Cash flow is cash flow on a content site. You don't have inventory sitting there, working capital tied up for, months at a time. So there's a big market for content sites. They're generally selling at a higher valuation. Because of that, there's less working capital involved. Again, the problem with many content sites is that people, they have certain expertise. They say, hey, I'm going to start blogging about this. I'm going to talk about this. I. And then we have to coach them on removing the I and get them out of the picture so that they're not the name and the face of the business. And it'll bring more value. But those are strong. There's a strong market for buyers there. And the team here at Quiet Light has a lot of expertise in that area too.
Is there any market that's off limits, like you're like, or is any content site like a good content site? Like I can think of multiple niches. I've been part of them. I've I've used them, right? If I'm looking to do something to the house, I might go find someone that's building railings on the deck, and I might go and explore that and learn. And it might not be the I, but it's the DIY blog or whatever, right?
Yeah, just about anything from their survival niche to chicken coops to soap operas to, how to build a porch. Okay. Any kind of content site, saltwater fishing recently.
Oh, gosh, that's awesome.
If you've got any kind of expertise and there's a niche for it, it's going to drive traffic, and that traffic, can drive clicks, which is going to put money in your bank account. It's an attractive, hopefully sellable business if certain things are happening in it, and the multiples are generally a little bit higher. Depends upon the business and how much details involved, but they're generally a little bit higher.
And so real quick, what is are the pillars the same? Like if you're...
Yeah. The pillars are the same. It's still, risk, transferability, growth, and documentation. They're the same no matter what the business is. It's just some of the details within it are different.
Cool. I love hearing that. And actually, you and I didn't talk really too much about that, but I love hearing that because I am a fan of content sites. And I think it's great for people that are struggling with just saying, I don't want to invest 10 grand in inventory to get started. And I always tell people, let's kind of go backwards then. Let's start with content. Let's start with traffic. Then we can do affiliates. Then we can do our own products off of the affiliate sales and kind of work it backwards. So it's kind of like people that are stuck, like there's a place to get unstuck. Like anybody can do that.
Yeah. And that's the content side of it is, it's a different ramp time, right? It takes longer, methodical, good quality content over the years, and you should be rewarded. With a physical products business, if if all the stars are aligned, that thing could take off like a rocket, and then you're going to have a big problem just keeping up with inventory. So either way, there's different pros and cons to it. I love them both. There's also other niches as well, but the cash flow aspect of content, once it's up and running and doing well, it's just a methodical, addition to the content and working and networking with, the different affiliates that you can connect with to just squeeze out a little bit more revenue, an extra percentage point or two from the clicks that you do get.
No, that's awesome. Good, man. This was awesome. I love talking with Joe Valley about this type of stuff. And we're going to be talking with you at Brand Accelerator Live. So depending on when people are listening to this, you will be there with your team and everyone that's going to be attending. Where can people find out more if they're not attending Brand Accelerator Live? They want to learn more about you and Quiet Light. Go ahead and let people know how they can get a hold of you guys.
It's pretty simple. quietlightbrokerage.com. Take a look at the website. You can look at listings. You can look at things that we've sold. You can look at the resources that we have. Listen to our podcast where we have people that recently bought or sold a business on to talk about their own personal successes and some of their failures. And take a look at the different advisors that we've got. We've got a diverse group of advisors with a diverse amount of experience that, we can find the right fit for you guys.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And, you know as well as I do, like relationships are everything. And I feel like, you and I have created a pretty good relationship over the few years that we've known each other. And I always like to definitely let the audience know who to go to and who not to go to. And I definitely think you guys are just a stand-up group of people and a great organization. So thank you once again, Joe. I look forward to hanging out with you in Texas. And till next time, I'll talk to you later, man.
All right. See you soon.
All right. Well, there you have it. I mean, Joe and I could probably go on for days talking about this, and he's got so many stories of sellers or, buyers, and he just knows the ins and outs about this business, really, in a sense, because it's like real estate. I mean, they are real estate brokers in a sense, but after you've been doing it a while, you start to learn a few things about what sellers and buyers are doing and what buyers are looking for from sellers and what sellers could be doing differently. So hopefully you got a ton of value from this episode. Go back, look at your business from the lens that Joe would be looking at the business from. Now, again, Quiet Light, really awesome people over there. They are always willing to jump on a call or do an audit of your business and give you free advice. Literally free advice. And the reason why they're willing to do this is because they're cool people that actually want to build a relationship way before the sale, if there ever is a sale. And you heard Joe say that a little bit in this session that him and I were talking, but it's so true. And I've been hanging around Joe enough to know that it's real. It's not one of these things that they're just saying that. So again, check out Quiet Light Brokerage if you want more details about your business, where it's at. And from there, also, if you are attending Brand Accelerator Live, I want to encourage you to go up to Joe or someone on his team and talk about your business. Okay. I want to encourage you to do that. All right. So with that all being said, I've got so much energy today because I'm so excited about Brand Accelerator Live and everything we got going on. Can't wait. So that's pretty much going to wrap it up on this episode. The show notes, once again, are at theamazingseller.com/719. And you can grab all the show notes, transcripts, everything on over there. All right, guys. So that's it. That's going to wrap it up. As always, remember, I'm here for you. I believe in you and I am rooting for you. But you have to, come on, say it with me, say it loud, say it proud, take action. Have an awesome, amazing day. I'll see you right back here on the next episode.